Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and I have an astronomy lesson to share with you today. We're using our live education Waldorf curriculum for astronomy, and we are working on section 2, which is latitude and longitude and the Northstar. For this lesson, we're going to be using our astronomy main lesson books. These measure 9.5 inches by 12 inches. They have blank pages and blue pages, and you can find them at a child's dream, and the links to all of the resources are on the blog post that accompanies this video. I'm going to be using a compass in order to do this illustration. I thought it was going to be easy, but it ends up taking a lot longer than I expected. We're using our chalk pencils. These are by Generals. I have a couple of different brands in here. They work really well on this blue paper, but you do need to use a matte fixative once you are done to set your chalk so it doesn't transfer onto other pages. I'm starting off with a circle. I just want it to be big enough to fit the page, but I still want a little bit of room above in order to draw the North Star and a little bit of room below so that I could draw the directions of the compass. Initially, I began by drawing the continents, but I realized that I needed to draw the lines of latitude and longitude first. And then I was going to add the continents over, but I still was able to see the lines of latitude and longitude that I was going to accentuate once I did the illustration. It took a little while in order to measure out the lines of latitude and longitude because I am doing this on a curve, so my equator isn't going to go straight across, it's going to curve across, which means there's less room south of the equator than there is north of the equator. So I did want to be as accurate as possible with this as we're moving into middle school with our science main lesson blocks. Accuracy and precision is a top priority over the imaginative artistic expressions we've done in the past. Once I got the basic lines of latitude and longitude, including the equator, the prime meridian, the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, and the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle, then I began adding my continents over that. Even though we are adding the lines of the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn and the Arctic Circle, we're actually not discussing it for this lesson. We are basically going over the lines of longitude and latitude more generally and bringing in the importance of these discoveries, including the Cronometer and the quadrant, and the idea of the North Star being higher above you, so a higher degree above you, the more north you go, as tools for the age of discovery. We're touching on the age of discovery, which is going to be its own main lesson block in the following year for the students. At this point, I have my continents, and I'm going over the lines of latitude and longitude. I was very specific with the lines of latitude, but with the lines of longitude, I free-handed them. And now I'm coming back in to really accentuate the lines that I want to identify. I'm adding in the degrees as well for the North Pole and the South Pole, as well as the equator. I also want to label each of these important lines of latitude and longitude. The problem is that once you add some chalk pencils to your page, it's really hard to layer on top of them in order to write your labels. And so I had a little bit of a struggle trying to get the white to really show up. And I had the option of using my chalk pen, but I opted not to do that only because it's a really thick pen point and I did not want it to be overpowering for the illustration and just take up too much room. The last thing I want to do for this illustration is add the compass points at the bottom of this illustration. Even though I've labeled the North and South Pole, I still want to have a compass with the North, South, East, and West, and I think it's something beautiful to this part of our illustration. It's not completely necessary, as I could have labeled East and West directly on the globe, but I thought that it was a nice touch. I love the way the white really pops against the blue. I think it's so beautiful. The next thing I need to do is draw a little ship. Now I decided to do this on the adjoining page rather than directly on the globe. I thought it would be a little bit easier to get the line from the ship to the North Star to really show how these ships on the open sea use the constellations, specifically the North Star and the Cronometer, in order to do transatlantic exploration. Additionally, we also included a religious component for this lesson. We added an ayat from the Quran from Surah number 6, ayah number 97. He is the one who has set for you the stars, that you may guide yourselves by them through the darkness of land and sea. This ayah perfectly captures the essence of this lesson. Once the illustration is done, I added that ayah to the top of the page as well as our title, followed by the rest of the content for this lesson. I am writing these lessons and illustrations in a main lesson book rather than on the chalkboard. That way my daughter can refer to the illustrations to copy into her main lesson book, and she can refer to the content to refresh her memory before she writes her original narration. I hope that you enjoyed this look at our astronomy lesson. Don't forget to check out the blog post that accompanies this video for more information, links to resources, as well as other video tutorials. You can find the link to that blog post in the description box below. And if you'd like to see how we're homeschooling on a daily basis, you can find me on my website at pepperandpine.com.